All right. Good evening, everyone. Uh, Thank you for joining. Um, my name's Lafayette Cruz. I am a regional arts and culture planner here at the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, and want to welcome you to this evening's information session for the Lower Mystic Communications Call for Artists. Um, so this evening we'll be giving some background on the project, background on the call for artists, and then leaves time for Q&A. But before we dive in, I'm wondering if folks on the project team, so Julia, Nubes, and Madi, would be willing to introduce yourselves.
Absolutely. Happy to go first. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining. My name is Julia Nasser. I'm a climate and energy planner at MAPC and supporting this Lower Mystic Co-Communications project along with my colleagues here.
Marty, go ahead.
Okay, I was watching if you were gonna jump in. Hi everyone, my name is Maria Angelia Echevarria. I am a climate resilience and social manager at Mystic River Watershed Association, and I'm one of the project partners, and I represent the community organization and also help manage all the relationships with the residents that we're gonna be working for this project.
Hi everyone, my name is Nubis Chen. I go by she, her. I'm the Arts, Culture, and Humanities Planner at MAPC.
Wonderful. Thank you all. So I guess before we dive in, I wanted to give some context on MAPC. Who are we? So we are the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. We are the regional planning agency for the 101 counties and cities and towns, not counties, cities and towns around Boston and in Eastern Massachusetts. We provide technical assistance and long-term planning for these municipalities and community groups from a wide array of topics, from arts and culture to public health to clean energy, transportation, um, you name it. And we're excited to be partnering on this project and thinking about the intersection of public health, energy, and art. And I'll pass it over to Mari.
Thank you. Yeah, as I mentioned before, we are the nonprofit partner for this project. And if you have never heard about Mystic River Watershed Association, we are an environmental nonprofit that works building solutions so everyone in the watershed area, which are 21 municipalities, can have healthy environment and also thriving communities. And we also do a lot of work around climate resilience, which this project falls within that, through the Resilient Mystic Collaborative, which is a partnership among 20 municipalities in the Mystic River watershed area, including municipalities and community-based organizations that are working together to address climate change challenges that no single municipality can address alone.
Wonderful. Julie, I wonder if I could pass it to you to talk about this project.
Absolutely. Um, Thank you all very much. So this project, or the Lower Mystic Co-Communications Project, is a collaborative approach between Chelsea, Revere, Winthrop, Malden, and Everett. And it's all about addressing extreme heat. So a little bit about the project background is we're essentially seeking to develop a coordinated and community-driven approach to heat resilience communications. Because as many of us here know, the summers are getting hotter, the lower Mystic communities are disproportionately hotter, and yet our existing heat warnings are just not working. Next slide, please. So this map shows the Lower Mystic as an urban heat island. This is due to dense development, low tree canopy cover, high concentrations of impervious surfaces like asphalt and concrete. And so that's one of the reasons why we're targeting this area. In the same way that some parts of the city are disproportionately exposed to heat, there's also folks in our communities who are disproportionately sensitive to extreme heat. So though the entire city may be considered an urban heat island or a neighborhood might be an urban heat island. That doesn't mean that all of the residents that are living there are affected in the same way. So this is just a sample of some populations that are disproportionately affected by heat, like older adults, people without AC, people who live outdoors or experiencing homelessness. So as we're thinking about our communication materials, we're kind of trying to uplift the voices and targeting these populations. So as for the Cool Communications campaign and the arts component, we are looking to partner with artists to create a creative communication materials that kind of resonates with those different audiences, looking through multilingual and non-traditional channels to motivate protective action. Um, the call for artists that we're planning is seeking to complement traditional heat messaging with art, creative storytelling, to promote more interactive and engaging communication strategies. So this is a 2-year uh, grant that we received through the state's Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Grant. So we started last September. We're aiming to pilot something this summer in 2025, and the project will continue on through next summer. Any initial questions on that? Or maybe I'm sorry, I'm passing to Nubis
No.
or DL. Sorry.
Yeah, that's back to me. No, thank you, Julia. Um, yeah. So with that context in mind, one of the goals with the goals for this call for artists are to expand the municipalities and CBO's capacity to communicate sort of heat messaging and better integrate creative storytelling and arts and culture into that messaging so that we can reach, as Julia was mentioning, the members of our communities that are facing a higher vulnerability to increased heat risk. Um, Another goal is to connect municipalities and CBOs with the public. So using this artistic prototype as a way to both connect the public and their experience of heat and cooling strategies, but also connecting them with the resources and information that municipalities have available. And to be able to empower the community, I think there's this sense in the Northeast that, like, if I tell you that it's going to be cold, you have a understanding of what you do in response to that. We don't often think of the Northeast as an extremely hot place, and so we're trying to begin to build that diverse cultural preparation for heat. And so with this project, there was a total award of $35,000 with up to 14,000 reserved for materials. As we select and review sort of applications, we'll choose up to 5 finalists that will be awarded funding to develop and implement prototypes. And the criteria that we're going to be looking at are, does your practice and your sort of proposal concept align with the project goals and values? So are you aligned with trying to address adverse heat risks and helping focus on priority populations? Do you have experience with community engagement? Do you have a community-based practice? Is your practice informed by community? Do you have community ties? So whether you are from the Lower Mystic watershed area or have a connection to the at-risk communities that we've identified, can you execute this? Can you execute the concept? Do you have a track record of being able to take creative ideas for engagement and transform them to deliverable activations and art pieces? And as we said, we are trying to think about sort of contextual sensitivity. We have sort of at municipal disposals very general um, communication material, but can you work to design uh, materials that are sensitive to the communities that we're trying to respond to? And then project management. As you may see in the timeline, which we'll go over, this is a pretty quick turnaround, which is why we're expecting sort of a prototype, but would you be able to working with us over this short time period, execute a creative prototype for our communities to use? So I just threw all that at you, but what does that mean for the actual application? So it's a very quick and standard application. So artist information. Who are you? How do we contact you? If you are applying as a part of an artistic team, who are the other folks that you're going to be collaborating with? Um, and we also ask for a cover letter. So who are you? What is your artistic practice? What are the forms, artistic forms and media that you use? How is your practice connected to community? And what's your experience with heat resilience, cooling strategies? Um, and then also your availability for working on this in the time frame of the project. So between April 16th through June 30th. And then beyond that, a background on who you are, brief biography, a link to your portfolio. Can we see sort of how you work and the work that you've done? And all that feeds into a preliminary concept. So we're not expecting you in this short time to already know what you want, but we want to see sort of based on the materials that you've been given, how are you beginning to ideate on possible activities? And also help us determine whether this engagement and the funding that we have can actually see that vision um, for a prototype fulfilled or not. So the deadline, which I alluded to. So the application is due April 4th at 11:59. We'll then, based on the criteria that I stated before, a selection panel will be reviewing the applications um, and ranking them, and we'll make an announcement on or before April 11th. In that time, we'll be available to answer any questions. We'll send a grant agreement um, and sort of answer any of your questions about the grant, answer any of your questions about what you'll need ahead of the grant period. But we hope to have that signed by April 16th so that you can get meeting community partners, you can begin working, you can be available to ask any questions, and we would like to have an initial prototype idea submitted on or before May 31st. So you can get feedback from us, from the community partners, and then spend the rest of June beginning to complete the artwork or installing it. And so today is our last info session, but if you have any more questions, please submit them to us at coolcommsart@mapc.org, and I'll have someone put that in the chat. But if we can have those by March 24th so that we can make sure to give timely questions to everyone. And we'll be taking the recordings of these info sessions and creating an FAQ document as well, so that if you have more questions, you can reference those. So I think we have given you a lot of information, but we want to open it up for any questions that you may have. Pallavi?
Hi, my apologies. I joined a little late, so if you'd covered that when I missed the first 6 minutes, I really apologize. So I'm not an artist, but I have been doing a lot of work in the Lower Mystic over the course of, I guess, the last decade on, urban heat and cool pockets and part of, everything amazing that Mystic River Watershed Association has been doing with other local nonprofits. My question is really to kind of get a better understanding of the timelines that for the call for artists, and I know that there's probably a pretty solid group of local artists who do work in the community, but how much success have you had if you've used this process in other parts of, I guess, Metro Boston to get a good representation from local artists? Because I feel like there might be a little bit of a disconnect, if you will, in terms of, if there are local artists who are already keyed into the MVP timeline and things that have been happening on the broader climate resilience front, that's different because you know that they're already paying attention and they can move quickly enough. But I'm just wondering, I love the project and I think it makes so much sense, but I'm just a little concerned that you might not be able to reach everybody who could benefit from this in the timeline that you have.
Yeah. So if and my colleagues hop in, but if I'm understanding your question, is it how have we been effective in the past at reaching local artists on this topic?
That, and also since you said, the thing actually started back in September, so have you been reaching out to artists in the interim, like sort of creating some buzz around this, and which makes perfect sense, but I just don't know enough about, where this process has been.
Yeah, I'll take a first stab at this and then other folks can hop in. So this is our sort of initial engagement with integrating arts into this particular project. And that's part of why we expect it to be more of a prototype. We've as an agency have been trying to work at how to integrate arts communication into heat communication. Um, and so for this project in particular, this is our first attempt at it. And I think if there are artists that you think we should also be reaching out to based on your work, but we would love for you to share the call. But yeah, I think mostly right now it's been relying on our networks and the network of our community partners. Um,
So can I ask if one of the ways to get the info out there is like Chelsea Green Roots and NOAA and other CBOs that are active. Obviously, Mystic River Watershed Association is sort of our base organization, and I see it represented because I know Mystic River is also doing other like cool, what is the project called, Maria Angeli? I I always get mixed up. It's cool, Wicked Cool Mystic.
The Wicked Cool Mystic, yes.
Yeah. So to what extent, I guess I should reframe and say, to what extent is this sort of embedded in the larger Wicked Cool Mystic outreach and efforts?
Yeah. So everything's kind of like intertwined. So the Wicked Cool Mystic and Wicked Hot Mystic identify where the hottest areas in the watershed. And have been working with residents to identify different solutions they wanted to see in the watershed and in their municipalities. And then we're doing like different phases kind of like of the Wicked Cool Mystic. One of them is like we're working with a group of climate leaders that are part of this project, that the artists will have the opportunity also to work with them in like shaping the idea and like receiving input and everything, that are liaisons with the community. And also we have another project that those same climate leaders are part of that are identifying more cooling solutions. So yes, we're trying to intertwine everything, and we share the call for artists within Myra's like newsletters and like all the constituency that we have. But I am happy to do like a second round of outreach to our engagement team, make sure that Green Roots and everyone have the information. We send it around, but I can just make sure and message them and see if they have it in hand.
That is exactly what I wanted to hear. So thank you for filling in that
Of
gap
course.
in my.
Martha, I see you posted a question, but I think Sharon, had you responded to?
No, I was responding to the first half of the question of an example of of whether MAPC had done this before, and so I shared an example in the chat of
Okay.
another process that we had that integrated creative communications into a public health communication strategy. So that was answering not Martha's question. So I'll hand it to you, Lafayette, to take Martha.
Actually,
Thank
that did answer my first part. So thank you.
Wonderful. I see another question from Lucy. Info session links and for who we may reach out to for aid in processing grant application appropriately. So these recordings and a written FAQ will be on the Call for Art website. So can I ask one of my wonderful colleagues to post to the website in the chat? And so you'll be able to one, look back at this recording and recording from a previous info session, and then we'll have FAQs. And in there, and throughout, there'll be the email that you can reach out to is coolcommsart@mapc.org. So that'll be the primary way that we'll be responding to questions initially, and then if we make it to sort of the grant signing stage, yeah, there will be a particular artist liaison that you'll be interacting with. Did I miss other questions?
I just have a quick follow-up, if you don't mind my asking. I realize that this is the second or the last round. Did you get a lot of participants in the first round of actual artists sort of saying, yes, this is something we'd like to
First round.
of doing this RFR or
The info
what-
sessions.
Yes, the info sessions. Thank you.
No
Oh
problem.
yeah. We had a few artists on the first info session. That's partially why we're recording it. We had folks who registered or emailed that they wanted to attend but weren't able to, and so
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
And to be clear, this is the this is the only RFR. So we haven't done a call previously for this project. So this is sort of, as Lafayette said, we're learning and doing, piloting.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other? Nelly, is that your hand raised? Okay.
I don't know if you can see me right now, but I thought that Pallavi's question was really interesting. I am a working artist who makes a variety of media that are for really bringing people together, but I also am not originally from this area and feel really sensitive about making work that can sit within the community that it is made for in a way that's like sensitive and meaningful. So I would be curious to know if you would be open to applications that sort of pair artists with folks from the community who are interested in like teaming up. Because I'm much more interested in like finding those kinds of alliances and expanding on ideas together than I am in just sort of like putting a spaceship out into land in a neighborhood that is outside of my own.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the artist concept section of it. One, so that we understand sort of how you work, but also to help us prepare like who are the CBOs that we should be bringing in, who are the climate ambassadors that we can be partnering with you early on so you can have those conversations to inform the prototype. Yeah, I mean, I believe we are open. We try to make the application open to that and trying to see what prototypes and processes and outcomes can better communicate cooling strategies and heat risk to these communities.
Cool, thank you. Appreciate it.
And I'll offer as follow-up to that, and Mari already mentioned this, but just to highlight it, there are several organizations, in addition to the Mystic River Watershed Association, who are part of this project, including Green Roots, Everett Community Growers, and the Chinese Cultural Connections in Malden. And so they are sort of partners on this grant. And in your application, if you sort of indicating interest in working with them, that would be something that we could, in reviewing the applications, explore with the CPOs of like that interest in partnering. And also noting that we're open if there are other organizations that you partner with on an application of, that's something we're open to exploring the Lafayette side, but just wanted to note that those sort of 3 organizations are partners on this grant with us.
That is really I think key, because that's the piece I was like scratching my head around, like how are we gonna make sure that folks who may not be from the immediate community can actually connect with, you know, the grassroots organizations that have been doing this work for forever, so to make sure that there is a lot of cross fertilization. And I promise this is my last question.
No worries.
Just given sort of where our world is going, I feel like, you know, art is something that people are gonna really turn to in a time when everything else seems to be just not falling in places that it should. Not to say, you know, green infrastructure and climate resilience and everything else that we need these communities to be prioritized for. I feel like if there could be some sort of a interface with involving, you know, community youth, you know, and as you all know, that, you know, between ECO at Chelsea Green Roots, there's a huge sort of contingent of kids who've been championing a lot of this this stuff over time. And so, and maybe this is more of a suggestion for you, Nellie, you know, these communities are so special in terms of everything that they've thrived in spite of all the challenges, and I think the art could and should sort of speak to that. There's a lot of inspiration working with these communities, and I feel like not only does that mean that the cross fertilization of ideas needs to occur, but to the extent art can serve as almost sort of a way of focusing all the negative energy with everything else going on, almost like a relief to that now would be a good pitch if I was
I was
putting
about
it.
to say, do you want to be our local ambassador to
Should I
the world of
partner?
art? Yeah.
Yeah, if you weren't like asking for everything like tomorrow, no, I'm just kidding. No, I feel like I'll be involved with this in one way or the other. So I'm just really excited about when I saw this out there. I'm like, this is really cool. This is exactly what we need right now.
I'm glad we crossed paths. I'm looking forward to seeing more of you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay.
Not a question, just want to make sure, Pallavi, you had a chance to see. Okay, good. Martha's no in the chat. Good.
Thank you, Martha. Would love to connect.
Wonderful. Glad the info session could be a space of connection. Well, great. If there are no more questions, we'll let you have the rest of your evening. Thank you so much for joining us today, and look forward to seeing your applications. And please share this call with anyone that you think would be a good fit, who has ideas for art. Yeah, please share this call out. All right. Thank you all. Have a
Thank you.
wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you so much. This is awesome. Looking forward to following up.